Hi, this is Melanie for the Pardesi channel. I'm here to do my review of Dhadak, or Heartbeat. This is a film that I have been anxiously awaiting for a long time, and also viewing with trepidation because Sairat is an indisputed masterpiece, right? So I'm just going to say off the bat that this film is very, very good. Dhadak is a very good film, and it hits you emotionally. It's difficult because I did see Sairat, so I know how gritty that film was, especially in the second half. And I had the emotional wallop of not knowing completely what was going to happen. There's no way that I could go into this film and be surprised because I already knew where we were going. Now, I took a neighbor with me who knew nothing, who had not even seen the trailer, who just said, "Oh, you're going to the movie with, okay, I'll go with you." And I bit my tongue, and I didn't tell her anything other than who the two lead actors were, and that it was Sridevi's daughter's launch, and that Ishaan is Shashank Kapoor's half-brother. That's all I told her, and I told her that the same director who had done Humpty Sharma, which she has not even seen, so that didn't mean anything to her. So it was sort of interesting perspective of, I'm sitting there waiting for all the certain beats of the plot that I remember to happen, and her going in just not knowing anything. She said the middle was slow, and then when the ending happened, she understood why we had taken all that time in the middle section of the film. Okay, so I'm getting ahead of myself. This director is Shashank Khaitan. He did Humpty Sharma with Varun and Alia, and then he did its sequel, Bride Your Nath. And so he's done these light romantic comedies. This is the darkest film, or has the film with the most darkness in it that he has ever done. So this is only his third film. This is produced by Dharma Studios, which means Karan Johar. Sridevi entrusted her daughter, Jhanvi, for her launch in a Karan Johar film. So the big question is, how does it, well, the two big questions are, how does it compare to Sairat, if you've seen it, and how did Ishaan and Jhanvi do in their debut? And I will say, we'll have a pretty much spoiler-free section here, and then I want to touch on some differences between this film and the original Sairat at the end. But just know, this is a worthwhile film to see. It's also worthwhile to see Sairat, which I think is still playing on Netflix. This is a star-crossed lovers kind of film, a romantic drama, and we get a lot of glorious romance. And this director, Shashank Khaitan, is very good at doing romance. And Ishaan especially so impressed me. This was not his debut film. He did another smaller sort of indie film called Beyond the Clouds, which I did not see, but I have seen the trailer for, I think, at least 40 times because it was playing in front of every Indian movie here in the Chicago theaters for months and months and months. So I've not seen it, but I could see the charm that he had in that trailer. And he is so charming in this film. He has to play this lower caste boy who is so innocent and so in love. And he does that so well. He's so charming. I loved watching him on screen. Jhanvi, this is her debut. She did very, very well. I think she can improve with time, especially some of the darker emotional scenes weren't as great. But I thought, now nobody can have the attitude of Archie from the original Sairat. I mean, that was singular, very unique. I did think though that she had a lot of, Jhanvi showed a lot of chutzpah in her character and a lot of arrogance. And then, you know, the despair and the depression in some scenes in the second half. She did do well. They had great chemistry together. I loved watching them on screen. I thought, you know, that's one of the big questions answered. Yes, it's worth it to go see them. Is she as good as Sridevi? Does she look like Sridevi? I mean, occasionally I saw it like in the eyes, you know, you could see it. I mean, obviously you're just looking at that face on the big screen and you're trying to see Sridevi in there. So I suppose we should just be all glad that she doesn't take after her father so much. She does, but she's not, you know, she's not a clone of her mother. She's her own person. And I think she has a lot of talent, but Ishaan was the one that really impressed me. Əəcəcək Rana, who I'm embarrassed that I couldn't recognize his name in a previous trailer, he plays as the lawyer in Mulk, opposing lawyer in Mulk. I was like, he's so familiar. Yeah, that's why, because he didn't have a mustache in that trailer. It like threw me off. Okay, he played the benevolent but stern father in Humpty Sharma. And here he's playing just an out-and-out, one-note, evil father. But that's not that different, really, than what was in the original Sairat. So what was there in the script is what he had to work with. And it's pretty much, there was no surprises in what his reaction was going to be to different scenes. He's a politician who is disgraced by his daughter being with this lower caste boy. Okay, so I'm going to enter into some spoilers now. So if you don't want to know anything, just know, yes, this film is worth seeing. The music is great. They took some of the original songs, reworked them a little bit, especially the Zingat number I really love. I will just say that I felt, to not have any spoilers, just to contrast it, I will say some of the rough edges of Sairat and the grittiness of it were kind of polished away and just made, just an example, like, there's never a hair out of place for Jhanvi. Like, even when she's in the most crazy circumstances and in the most dire straits, there's not a hair out of place. So it's like, we're in Bollywood land. We're not in the land of gritty independent cinema. I think it's a very good film. Okay, now we're going to get into a spoiler section, because to really talk about and contrast it with Sairat, I have to talk about some spoilers with the plot. So if you don't want to know anything, please stop here. Okay, so now let's get into some of the differences, some of the choices that they made in this remake. I mean, Sairat has been remade already in Punjabi, Kannada, Bengali. They're working on a Telugu and a Tamil as well. So, I mean, it was such a successful Marathi film. They're remaking it in each language, and they're adding differences to make it local. So the setting has changed. Instead of a completely rural setting, we're set in Rajasthan, and cinematography was gorgeous. The setting of the city of Uttarpur that they were in, I mean, I want to go there. It was like a tourist commercial of how beautiful the city is with the lakes and the rivers and the, oh, just gorgeous. I did think it was interesting that instead of, you know, Jhanvi's father just being a politician, farmer, landowner, that he was of possibly royal blood and had one of those huge mansions, family mansions that had to become a hotel to keep the, you know, to keep the family going. So I thought that was an interesting choice of kind of showing how already they've got a chip on their shoulder because they're having to be in a hotel and serve people like white people. And he's running for office. That was the same. There's so many beats that they kept the same, of him, you know, jumping into the pond and things like that. And I think Ishaan did a great job. But some of the other choices, the fact that Ishaan was not Dalit, you know, there was a caste difference or a class difference, but his family owned a successful restaurant in the town. So it wasn't just the gulf between them didn't seem as dire, as huge. We were told that it was, but I just remember Sairat showing us things like her coming to his house and not being able to drink the water, or I don't know, just there were just other things that seemed to set the two so far apart. And you know, I mean, the director of Sairat is a Dalit himself, so he just had so many gritty details in there that just kept the cast differences in the forefront. Also, once they run away, when he's taken to the police station, they changed some of that. And that was such a key scene of Archie going into the police station and ripping up that police report that they forced the kid in Sairat to sign, that she had been gang raped. I mean, that, like, she still thought she had control of the narrative. Like, that was such a dramatic scene that I remember that they just eliminated. They just had him being beaten in the police station. I just remember the impact of that scene, and in the moment I didn't miss it, but then I was always thinking it over after the film was over, like, what was different. I just remember, like, she still was arrogant and thought she had some control, and then that's when everything, like, just went to hell. I mean, they definitely made it clear they were going to kill him. They still had her grabbing the gun, all of that. But then there's this journey, like, in Sairat, there was nowhere for them to go. They ended up in Hyderabad, and there was no safety net. They were literally sleeping in train stations, living on the street. Archie was almost raped by people. They just were living in a shack in the outdoor toilet, like, and Archie was so helpless, she couldn't even feed herself. When Prashant went out for work, like, she didn't even know how to cook anything. So the gulf there, just the, like, from the love story in the first half and just how gritty the second half was just stunning to the audience. It was just like a jolt, just the same way it was for Archie. Like, she was taken out of this rich environment. It didn't quite have the same impact in Dhadak, the second half. There was a safety net. There was an uncle to help them. There was a hostel. Yes, it was not the mansion that she grew up in, but it just wasn't quite, if you'd never seen Sairat, maybe it still would have had impact to you. But for me, I was like, okay, this isn't quite the same. And again, like, with her hair always looking fantastic and whatever, I just remember Archie just looked so downtrodden and so, Jhanvi was showing the depression, but it was just the contrast in her only having dirty clothes and whatever to be in, and just how dire it was. Next big change that I was thinking about is the ending. Definitely, if you have not seen Dhadak, stop here. Stop here. Don't go further. If you have seen it, let's discuss the change in the ending. I had heard that there was a change, and so I was like, how can they change it and not have the impact? That's the whole thing. And it was interesting going with my friend, knowing that she had not seen Sairat, and I just bit my tongue. And I didn't even let her know this was going to be about honor killings. Now, maybe because she grew up in India, she would have guessed that this is where the film was going to go. Because he slightly changed it, because the director slightly changed it, I had that dread in me. Probably the audience did too. You're waiting for that scene. What is going to happen? How is the killing going to happen? To remind you, in Sairat, we don't actually see the killing, but we see the silence is the same, and we see the babies crying and the bloody footsteps. Now, in this film, she is run out, and it's in an upper floor apartment, and as she's coming back, the body of Ishaan drops, and then her eyes fall, and so it's silent again. It's just that sort of ringing in your ears silence that stuns you, and you're with her as she's so stunned, and then she just starts screaming, but it's silent. You're just seeing her just screaming. But then that's when my heart just stopped, when I saw her eyes, and I'm like, oh my God. And then they showed the bodies with the I mean, just tasteful amount of blood, but they did show that little body lying there that had been tossed out of the window, and then it was fade to black. There was a crowd there. I mean, I wondered, like, it was always that she was going to be killed as well, so they left it open-ended, but you saw there's someone again crying. The baby was crying then. This time It was Jhanvi's character that was wailing at a moment that was supposed to be celebration, and that she thought, you know, she had missed her family so much, and that moment that she thought that they were sending presents and that they were loving her and willing to accept her back in the family, and then boom. Like, I can't judge if it has the complete same impact for an audience that's never seen Sairat. Because I did see it, so I was waiting for it to come. The entire movie, I was waiting for it to come and how it was going to be portrayed. So I can't, for myself, I can't separate the two, but I will say, because he slightly changed it, I still jumped and went, oh! And then my heart just sunk when her eyes, oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, so it still had an impact, but I just remember sobbing after Sairat. It was just so impactful. Still a very good film, just not the masterpiece that is Sairat. But is it a travesty that they remade it? No, it's not. And because of the good message of the film, and they had the same thing about how many honor killings they are and how, you know, horrible it is. So if it carries that message to more people, then that it's not just about keeping great art pristine and not ever copying it. Like, forget it. If it's carrying this good message and showing this love was good and true and innocent, and all these horrible things never should have happened to them, and if that message gets across and saves even one person's life, then it's all worth it. So I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. If you've had a chance to see the film, please like and share this review. Follow us on Twitter at PardeziYT. Subscribe to the Pardesi channel, and if you hit the bell, then you'll get a notification whenever I have a new trailer reaction or film review.